Ladies and gentlemen, we're here. It's another Friday night. It is 7:33 to be precise, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are watching the Playcallers Sports Talk Show. If you look above me, you see the gentleman with the merch on there. Looks really excited. Good
Yeah,
job, sir.
feeling
Awesome.
it.
And then of course we are joined, and of course it's my guy Stephen Box, co-host Playcallers Sports Talk Show. Makes sense why he's got the shirt on, right?
Yes.
And beside me here we have Mr. JJ. I'm not sure which he's going by tonight, so we're just gonna go with JJ, and then he'll let us know whatever he's going by tonight. And then above him, over here to my diagonal, in the captain's chair, we got the guy, the man, Coach Dante. And ladies and gentlemen, what are we here to talk? Y'all know what it is. We are here
Where's the other
to
person?
talk NBA, WNBA, site, not yet, but we will be. NCAA men's and women's basketball, and NFL free agency tonight. But make sure y'all tune in because you know this is your spot for NBA in the future too. Don't forget. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started tonight. Coach Dante, I want you. Why don't you start us off from the men's tournament? What are your thoughts so far? I know you've been watching, doing some of them today and everything, and yesterday. So I know you got a lot of things, a lot of good insight that you can give us. So talk to us, Coach Dante.
Well, we know coming into the tournament when what I've been known throughout the years, I've been knowing Virginia is a fraudulent basketball team. They're a very solid team that plays really good defense. They don't play offense whatsoever. They have a very solid coach. But at the end of the day, they're a fraudulent team that doesn't go far in the tournament. I believe the last time they kind of went far was the Final Four. That was the farthest they went to about a few years back. But they are a fraudulent basketball team. Furtman, they lost on a three-point shot where they turned the ball over in the inbounds. Just crazy lapses. Furman, got to give them credit. They made shots. They executed down the stretch. So Virginia is a fraudulent basketball team. Then you have Arizona, who won the Big Ten championship, and they have two big guys. Only they're two big guys for their best players today. Two Vellis and Bala was their guys, main guys yesterday. So other than that, you got to give credit. You got to give credit. You got to give credit to Princeton how well they played them. They stopped the guard play. The guard play was absolutely atrocious for Arizona yesterday. I don't know where they were. They were on the court, but they wasn't at, they seemed like they wasn't at the game yesterday. The way they were playing yesterday, very disappointed in Arizona. And Penn State, they were very impressive. They're very impressive. They mopped the floor with Texas A&M yesterday. Was a very impressive game, and if my Longhorns don't look out, they come out with a slow start. Penn State can very much shock them. So those are my thoughts from yesterday. Virginia and Arizona are very fraudulent teams once they get into the NCAA tournament.
Fair enough. I did see the can't remember the teams now. I did see the game with Princeton. I did see that game, and man, Princeton worked them boys over. You know, they made them play their game. Princeton was like, "You gonna play the way we want to play, and you gonna lose," and that's literally what happened. It was crazy to watch. It was interesting though to see, you know, a team like Princeton still running that Princeton offense. You know, their coach is a guy that actually went to the school, was one of their star players and the captain when he was there, and he's taken over. Yeah, and he's got everything still moving and going the right way. But I completely agree with what Coach Dante said about Virginia. The first number one ever to lose to a 16 as well. So let's not pretend that this does not happen to Virginia on a regular basis.
They did win
Jay,
it.
what you,
They did
what
win
you
it.
got for us?
They did win it the next year, so it's not as if they don't know how to win a title. They had won all the way through the year after losing. But, you know, I think it speaks to the point is that they're not an offensive team. And if you catch fire and beat their defense, they don't have the ability to score and match you. I think they're a very strong, solid team defensively, but they've never really had that significant scorer. They've had good scorers like Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, Malcolm Brogdon, but they never had like legit, like if you had to go and get 85 points, that's why they're so focused on defense. They'd rather stop you and keep you in game because they know they can't run with the best of them. And as far as Princeton, yeah, backdoor cuts all day. I know that from very well because JT3 adopted the Princeton offense when he coached at Georgetown. And so it's all about backdoor cuts. You need a big man that can definitely see the floor like Alperen Şengün in the NBA or Jokic or so, because he's the one that is the one that's looking for those cuts. I wasn't too surprised with Virginia because I did have a bracket where I was picking Vermin. I am a little surprised at Arizona, and I think it's Pac-12 teams, unlike sometimes get in this tournament and think they're going to roll, and they don't. The only team that actually really done that in the last couple of years is UCLA, and they weren't even expected to go that far. But yesterday was pretty. I love the best part because a 13 seed or a 14 seed or somebody was going to win. You just didn't know who it was going to be, and I think that was a big deal. I did like Penn State's victory. I am surprised at how difficult it was for, I want to say if it was Alabama, where they had, they kept that game too close for too long. I do, aside from that one time Virginia, expect them just roll over, but they didn't.
Fair enough. Mr. Box, any thoughts on yesterday?
Well, I didn't really get a chance to watch any of the games. I've been super busy with work the last couple of days. I didn't really get to see any. But it was, and I mean, I think it always is, right? When you look at some of the upsets that go down, that to me is, always question day one. It's like, what's everybody's bracket going to look like afterwards? How busted are we really going to be after day one? And this year, it just seemed like game after game after game is just like another upset, another upset, another upset. But I think my biggest takeaway from yesterday is the upset that really wasn't even an upset to me. Like Coach Dante said, was Virginia. Like, this is just what I expect from them. They are, as he said, a fraudulent team. So I didn't get to see the game, but I wasn't surprised when I saw the outcome.
So I was saying earlier, ORU, Oral Roberts University, you had one job. And someone reminded me, never trust a team whose name starts with oral. So I'm just going to say Duke did what they were supposed to do. A lot of people had that as an upset, it didn't manifest, but there was a 12-5. There's always a 12-5. You just have to figure out if you're picking the right one or not. But I thought it was a good day of basketball overall. I saw some snippets of a lot of the games, but I had certain games that I said I'm gonna watch this one or that one or this one yesterday. So great day overall, though. Very excited about day one, and we're into day two. So JJ, we're gonna start with you this time. So far for today, what are your takeaways?
It's amazing with this one team because their coach has had so much experience. They could be 19-14 and have a chance to really get to a Sweet 16. That's Michigan State today. Michigan State, for some reason, hangs around when they get in the tournament as a team that with a bad record. You just can't take them lightly. And I thought their win today was kind of impressive because they were considered first four out throughout the season, and then they made it. I was a little shocked at UConn's decisive victory over Iona because I did think Rick Pitino's extensive coaching experience would have made that game a lot more competitive than it turned out to be. But it is good basketball. I'm very excited. I think I'm excited to see what Auburn is going to do. I'm excited to see what they're going to do, as I believe in Bruce Pearl. And I think to your point about Oral Roberts, Duke's got a much tougher challenge this next go around against Tennessee. But other than that, good day of basketball.
Yep. Coach Dante?
1000% agree. I covered the game earlier today, Michigan State versus USC. And boy, that guard play and that pressure defense by Tom Izzo and the way the guards were pressuring the basketball all up over Boogie Ellis. They was just all up over him. He couldn't get no ounce of separation. And Boogie Ellis, for the last stretch of games, was averaging 24 points. And AJ Hogard and Tyson, they were just putting him in the box. They were making him very uncomfortable. And USC, they wasn't ready for that physicality, that kind of physicality today. And it kind of showed. The guard play was really, really good for Michigan State. And Joey Hauser, the power forward, can really shoot the hell out the basketball. So Michigan State is going to be a tough out, man. They plays hard, and every time Tom Izzo them get in that tournament, man, they're not going to go down easy. They're going to go down with a fight. And USC and Boogie Ellis in the guard play wasn't ready for the ball pressure, and the physicality really kind of hurted USC today. And Michigan State was really impressive on the defensive side of the ball, and locking down Boogie Ellis, who's USC best player.
Yep. Definitely agree, man. For me, couple of games. Kennesaw State, first time ever in the tournament, they made a statement. They didn't win the game, but Xavier barely pulled it out by the skin of their hindparts, 72-67. I didn't get to watch the game because I was out and about, but I was able to listen to it. And boy, Kennesaw State gave them everything they could handle plus more. So Xavier better wake up, or the next team is going to have just a little bit more juice to get rid of you at the end. Kennesaw State just kind of fell back at the end. But like I say, man, they had Xavier against the ropes at halftime and for much of the second half. But, Xavier, they did their thing. They came back and won. And the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Yep.
Over Iowa State. Pittsburgh.
My upset.
Pittsburgh went out and played basketball the way that you're supposed to play basketball. Unfortunately, NC State wasn't able to do the same thing against Creighton, but I just like the way that Pittsburgh went out and played. I like the heart, the fact that they made it a defensive battle. But unlike Virginia, they do have the guys at the score. And to your guys' point about Virginia, the reason Virginia doesn't have scores, the scores don't want to go to Virginia.
Yep.
They don't want to go play where you want them to play basketball. It's more than just team basketball. Virginia's always been built super defense and a little bit of scoring. The problem is when you have guys that are scorers, they'll play defense. A lot of them, they'll buy into team defense. But Virginia asks a lot of you defensively, and they don't reward you the same way with their style of play offensively. So you're never going to get the better scorers to go to a school like Virginia. You got to have to modernize the offense slightly to give guys more of an opportunity on that end before they're going to really be interested in coming in. You're going to get the guys that are, lower stars, that are just hustle guys, grit guys, play hard defense, don't turn over the ball, can make shots at times, but you're never going to get those dominant players that way.
Yep.
But that's what I was saying about the team part, is that you can be a limited scorer, but you also have to realize that you're not going to just go off on it every night. You got to sacrifice some of your scoring for this team. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah, why would you?
Right.
Well, you got any thoughts there, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Kennesaw State game, and I actually did have that one on in the background earlier. Local team, so I figured I'd at least check and see how they were doing. And I mean, they kept it competitive throughout. So a big shout out to them, definitely. One of my upsets that I did actually pick for round one, Providence over Kentucky. Right now, that's only a 3-point game. So very tight game. And one that's a bit of a surprise to me, Fairleigh Dickinson.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yep.
On Purdue at the half.
Well, is Purdue really the strongest one seed? Because I don't think I have them as the first one.
I think they're fraudulent too. I think Purdue is fraudulent too. I think they're very fraudulent too.
I think the weakest number one.
Yes.
But you still expect even a weak number one should be able to beat a 16, right?
As Virginia.
That's Virginia. I seen the minutes.
I would not be surprised.
This one is showing us that's who they are, right?
I would not be surprised if Purdue loses this game. I'll be very honest with you, because I don't believe in them at all.
Right.
They're going to be good in conference play. Purdue and Virginia, they're going to be good in conference play. They're not when it comes to the tournament. That's where everything falls apart when it comes to that tournament.
Agreed. So looking at the games tonight, we got a couple of more coming on tonight. Obviously, we won't be on when those are going on, but we've got number 12 Drake and number 5 Miami. We've got Gonzaga number 3 at Grand Canyon number 14. We've also got Memphis against Florida Atlantic, which is an 8-9 matchup. Got Kansas State, who's the number 3 against Montana State. Kent State against Indiana, that's 13-4. And then TCU number 6 versus Arizona State number 11. I'll just ask everybody, what game of those that haven't started yet are you most interested in seeing the outcome of?
I just want to shout out Maryland for their first victory as well. We opened the season of tournament well, but I'll go back to that. I'm looking forward to the Memphis game. I love the 8-9 matchups because I think Memphis
Those are even to me. Yeah.
Memphis is a team that I think could very well make it further than people expect because it's just those 8 and 9 teams have done things that most people, those are typically the teams that are the evenly matched ones, but they're also the team that's very competitive against the top teams. And I just think Memphis, I'm looking forward to seeing what Penny about to do. Because, I'm a big Penny fan. Big Penny fan.
Florida Atlantic might show you a little something tonight, too, though.
For sure.
Rule that completely out.
Yeah.
What about you, Coach Dante?
Like, definitely agree with what he said. I think the farthest Memphis can get, they'll be shot if they get to a league gate. I think that's a talented squad. I think that's a talented top squad. They got a great guard in Kendrick Davis. Kendrick Davis is a hell of a guard. And even if Purdue somehow win this game, I think Memphis is going to beat them. I think Memphis is going to beat Purdue if they find a way to advance. But I'm going to be looking forward between the 11th-seeded Arizona State and the 6th-seeded TCU Horned Frogs. I think that's going to be a solid matchup. And I think Arizona State, they come in this tournament really, really hot. I'm going to be looking forward towards the backcourt of Desmond Cambridge Jr. and Mike Miles Jr. That's a good backcourt matchup that I'll be looking forward to watch.
Definitely. All right, Steven, what about you, man?
I mean, for me, man, I'm just gonna go and put on my my hate cap for a second. I'm watching that Miami Drake, and I'm gonna say go Drake because I hate Miami. So that might be what I'm looking most forward to, is hoping that Miami lose.
You never know. These teams shoot threes, and that's what most of these teams from like Drake and Ivy League teams do.
So I'm a little interested in that Miami Drake game actually as well, because of course it's that 12-5 matchup. We've already had one, but we always know that there can be more than one of those. So that's one that's interesting to me. But I also am, and it just started, but I'm still going to talk about Gonzaga and Grand Canyon. Gonzaga should win this game pretty easily, but I'm curious to see. This is the lowest I remember them being in a while as a 3 seed. So I'm curious to see how good this team really is. Are they going to go out there and smack Grand Canyon and let everybody know that Grand Canyon is not in the same league as them? Or are they going to play around, let Grand Canyon come in and try to do like Xavier and pull out one of those weak wins at the end? I think Gonzaga needs to start making statements not only to other teams, but to each other. We here to try and show people that we're an Elite Eight, Final Four team. And to do that, you need to start off strong against these weaker teams. So I'm curious to see what Gonzaga is going to do, in that game.
I like Mark Few, but I feel like his best chance to win a championship went out the door when he lost to you guys. Like, I really be honest with you. I think that was their best chance. I don't know if they're ever going to get back.
Well, man, all I can say, man, is when we're on, you don't want to play Carolina. This was the year to play Carolina. A lot of people enjoyed smacking us around, deservedly so.
But to your point, that win against Gonzaga was just a makeup for Jenkins beating y'all with Villanova on that buzzer. That was just the makeup for them.
They were never going to win that game. It didn't matter who was across the court from us. They weren't going to beat us.
Agreed.
What happened the year before.
Agreed.
So tomorrow is the first of the second round days. Some of the Sunday games are set, but not all of them. So it's not really too much to talk about for Sunday. But I will say for Sunday, I think the best one that's set up so far is Pittsburgh and Xavier. We'll see if Pitt's really good and if Xavier learned anything, or if they're going to turn around and do the same thing. There's a couple of more games for Sunday. We might as well see if you guys are interested in them. There's Michigan State and Marquette, Creighton and Baylor, and then St. Mary's and UConn. St. Mary's UConn's a 4-5. Creighton and Baylor's a 6-3. Michigan State is a 7, and Marquette's a 2. So any of those games you guys interested in seeing?
Is that Sunday or Saturday?
That's Sunday. Because we don't have all the games for Sunday yet because we still have games going on.
Oh, I was about to say, because I'm looking forward to my matchup against 1 seed Alabama on Saturday. Maryland's got
but we're talking about Sunday.
Okay. All right. And,
we'll talk about Saturday.
Well, I probably won't be able to, I just want to throw that in the episode before I, have to, make my unfortunate casual exit. But Sunday, I'm looking forward to that Marquette versus Michigan State. because I believe in Shaka Smart. And I think this is a good test if they want to see if they can make a run. And I think Michigan State is the perfect team. Don't sleep on them, like Coach Dante just said. And I think in the tournament, coaching experience does play a huge part. And Izzo has been through this at every type of seed, and he still's been able. So it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I think a very defensive game. Very defensive game.
I'm going to take Baylor versus Creighton. It's going to be interesting how Baylor deal with that big guy, big tall guy, Ryan Kohbrenner, who definitely ate NC State alive in the paint. They had no idea how to guard them. And they also got some really good guard play. Now, Creighton got some underrated guard play. Ryan Nembhard, the brother of Andrew Nembhard, who plays for the Pacers right now, very solid guard. And you got Trey Alexander on the perimeter, and you got one of the best shooters in the game. Baylor Shireman. So it's gonna be Creighton is a really good team, man. And you got Arthur Kaluma, I forgot who's a 3-and-D player for Creighton as well. So it'll be interesting. Can Creighton run the Baylor Bears off the 3-point line? Because the Baylor Bears, LJ Cryer, all of those guys, Keontae George, they can really shoot the basketball. And so Creighton defense they're gonna need some perimeter defense and run these guys off that 3-point line. So, but the key for Baylor, how do you deal with Ryan Kohbrenner inside? Can you match with Ryan Kohbrenner inside? And also, he can stretch it out and shoot as well. So that's gonna be an interesting matchup for me. And I think Creighton has a good chance of not taking down Baylor.
All right, Steven. Either one of those games really interest you, or are you kind of waiting for the rest of them?
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of wait, man.
Fair enough. So we'll go to Saturday. We'll let JJ go ahead and tell us his matchup. I don't even have to give him the matchup. I know who he's going to pick. And
all right, let's do this, because I have to be honest with you, because I know this is probably my last couple minutes here. I was I wasn't really high on Maryland this year because I had a new coach. We had lost a few players. I didn't think that, we had Donta Scott still returned and stuff, but we also have LSU's Angel Reese's brother. But I'm excited to see them play against Bama. They played Bama before in the last 2 years and played them very competitive. So I'm curious to see what this coach is going to bring in this type of matchup, because in my bracket, I got Alabama going all the way and losing to Kansas. But in my opinion, this is the good matchup where I would not be surprised if we were able to pull it out, because in the NCAA, you just got to get hot. You get hot. It don't matter who you are at top. You can't stop it. Look at many years ago, how do you think we heard about CJ McCollum? Get hot. So I'm excited for the Alabama versus my Terps, and I want the Terps to win. Break my back. It just busted all the way up, All
right. So this matchup is very interesting. And I really like this team chances, but I will take the safer role. Arkansas versus Kansas. Arkansas is a sleeper team. I think they have the size. I think they have the length to beat Kansas, but the safer pick for me will be Kansas. They got an unstoppable force in Jalen Wilson on the wing, who's been really good in the Big 12 all year long. They got one of the top guards in the country in DeQuan Harris. But if you look at this Arkansas team, Anthony Black, who's a top prospect in the NBA, 6'7" guard. They got Nick Smith, who just coming back off of an injury. So the guard play is really solid, and the perimeter defense is really solid with Jordan Walsh coming off the bench. So I think they got the size and the length to really bother Kansas on the perimeter. So this is going to be a matchup I will be looking for, Kansas versus Arkansas. And don't be surprised if Arkansas win this game. Arkansas is a really good basketball team. They're a really good basketball team.
All right, Steven, anything from you?
So for me, I think the matchup I'm most intrigued to watch tomorrow is actually going to be Duke and Houston. I feel like they are Tennessee, excuse me. They're very well matched up teams. If you look kind of across the board, they're almost identical in so many stats, and even the records are almost the same. So to me, that's going to be a very interesting game, because it's going to basically be whose style is going to give the other team the most problems.
For me, I want to see San Diego State and Furman. I want to see what we're going to get out of Furman now that they've had their magical moment. If we're still going to get those guys playing the same way, we're still going to get a team that's attempting to move to the Sweet 16, or if they're just happy to have gotten a win. And also San Diego State. I mean, San Diego State played well in their game. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really curious to see them up against this. I'm gonna call it now from what we've seen, little dynamo team that's kind of that upset kind of low team. I think a lot of people are like, oh, we'd love to see Furman go far. We don't know Furman, we always have one of those teams every year that fans seem to get behind. And everybody wants to win just because, of who they are. So I think that's going to be Furman this year, and really excited about it. And we'll see how this game plays, but just curious to see that. And it's not a high matchup, right? It's a 5 and a 13. So, the 5 obviously we expect, but a 13. So, that's that first Cinderella that we're going to see. So curious to see that. And it's a nice early tip off tomorrow. So we'll be able to dig into that one before anything else takes my attention away.
So real quick, I just want to say I got to go, but I just want to say thank you for having me on as always. And I will check back with you guys next time. Be on the lookout for that Auburn in Houston. Houston could go down, just so you know. Be on the lookout. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right, guys. So now we'll slide over to the women's side. So Coach Dante. And let's be fair and let's not talk about the shellacking that the queens of college basketball have already put out. But what were your thoughts so far from the women's tournament?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my thoughts so far is how good Maryland looked against Holy Cross. Diamond Webb is pretty solid. It's pretty good. You can expect her to come out in the WNBA draft. She's a real good tall. She's 6'7", I believe. And you got Sellers as well. Sellers is a really good guard, really good forward. So I like the way Maryland looked against Holy Cross. And you know what? I'm not gonna say nothing about South Carolina and the shellacking they put. We saw when Northwood State made the tournament, and we saw how well they were dancing. Well, you didn't do too much dancing today. So you danced on right back up on out of the tournament. So at the end of the day, it'll be interesting how far can Notre Dame go, though. Notre Dame is out there guard Olivia Miles, so it'll be interesting to see how far they can get without her. I think they have the potential of losing the tournament early without her. She means a lot to the team. So they had a good win against Southern Utah, and the one seed from the Seattle region, Tech. We have Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech looks solid today. So again, and LSU, Angel Reese, they beat by 23. They beat a Y by 23. So again, there was some pretty solid games, and a lot of games. You expected those higher seeds to beat these teams, and they handled their business. And of course, Iowa put 95 on Louisiana. So other than that, I think the higher seeds did what they're supposed to do today.
And the worst part about Iowa is Caitlin Clark only hit 26 points.
Yep.
She didn't even have she did have 12 assists and 7 rebounds, so more of a versatile stat line a day. But Monica Cisano, she put up 22 points and 8 rebounds. So she's another lady in double digits. And then Hannah Stuelke, I think that's how you say her name. She put up 13 as well. So it was a little bit more spread out. But yeah, it's like what we talk about, right? We talk about, especially in women's. I feel like in women's, they do a good job of getting things right.
Yep.
Like you expect to see the higher seeds be more flush, especially in the early rounds.
Yep.
You start to get the upsets in the round of 32 and the Sweet 16 with the women. You don't get a lot of them in that first round because it's a large disparity between the talent, honestly.
Yep.
I see Utah and Gardner-Webb are playing now. Utah is up 27-14. The one upset I have seen is Mississippi State did beat Creighton. That was 11 beating a 6. So we did get one.
Yep.
But yeah, you don't get a lot of those, when we're talking, the women's game. It's more flush to what you normally see. Any thoughts on that, Steven?
I mean, honestly, I'm just gonna be real here. I'm not interested in the women's tournament until we get down to a few teams left, because I consider almost everything to that point a formality.
Well, I mean, if we're going that route, we don't even need to watch the women's tournament because we know who's going to win.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what the other teams are going to do on the way. We know who's going to win this tournament.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like, once we get down to like the Elite Eight, the Final Four, you at least have some teams in there that might have a chance, right? I mean, it's not, I don't think so, but I'm just saying, like, we might start to see some teams that at least have a chance. Somebody could get hot. You never know what might happen in those situations. Because remember, that's the one thing, in a one-loss tournament, all it takes is one bad night. All it takes is one team getting super hot one night. That's all it takes for somebody to win. So that's where I'll become a little bit more interested. Like in these early rounds of the women's, I'm like, there's no point in me even getting to know these teams. They're not going to be around for long.
I mean, I think it is two teams that's capable of beating them, but I don't think they're going to beat them.
Yeah.
They're not going to beat South Carolina. It's two teams that are capable, but they're not going to beat them. But South Carolina's just better than everybody else. If they're not shooting the ball well, they're gonna play great defense. They're gonna out rebound you. They're gonna out rebound you with Cardoza, and they're gonna with Aaliyah Boston, who's the best basketball player in the country. So they don't have to shoot the ball well. That's what's so crazy about that team. They don't even have to shoot the ball well. Their best player is Zaya Cook. It's the guard. She's their best shooter. All around. But if they're not shooting the ball well, they can still beat you with their pressure and defense and with their ability to dominate inside the paint and get offensive rebound after offensive rebound. So they really pound you inside, and also they play great defense. So it's going to be hard to beat them, but it's only, like me and Cool discussed, it's only two teams that could potentially do it. And I think just UConn could potentially do it, and Stanford can potentially do it because they got their top Stanford, Cameron Britt and Haley Jones. That combination is going to have to be really, really great to beat those guys. They're going to have to play professional basketball. If you're not playing professional basketball, you can't beat South Carolina. You're not going to beat South Carolina.
So Coach Dante, you're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's two teams that could potentially.
The thing is, South Carolina beats you with playing their worst game.
Yeah,
33-0, and it really hasn't been close, right? I mean, they've been in the hardest, really, probably basketball conference in women's basketball, but they're just so much above everybody that it's almost embarrassing at this point. But good news to the rest of the NCAA. Aaliyah Boston is leaving this year, so you have a chance starting next year. So
and they played a tough schedule. They haven't played an easy schedule. They played a tough schedule. They played Stanford. They played Stanford already. They played UConn and beat them. So they play a tough schedule. They don't play cakewalks. In the SEC, you got the SEC too. So they play tough schedules every single year and still win. That just shows you how much better they is.
Yeah, it's just not fair right now. It'll balance back out next year, but right now it's just not fair in women's basketball. If you're a fan of a team other than South Carolina, I'm sorry, but it's tough. It's gonna be tough for you this year. My Lady Heels.
I am putting. If I had to put money on it, it's all the money's going on South Carolina. I'm not. There's no hedging the best of nothing. It's all going on South Carolina. So.
I guess Carolina. That's fair. I would definitely do that as well. I would take South Carolina over the field any day of the week.
Yeah.
All right, now, gentlemen.
But the men's teams
got about 20. We got 20-some minutes left here, and a lot of free agency has happened this week. So let's do it this way. We'll start with Steven this time because football is a little bit more of his thing. So we'll give him a minute to kind of spew his knowledge here to us, and then we'll roll to Coach Dante, and I'll pick up the slack at the end. talk to us about free agency. What you think are some of the good moves that have been made? They can be big moves, sneaky moves. You know, your thoughts so far on free agency.
Yeah, to be honest with you, man, we've had so much stuff going on. I wish I had a list pulled up right now of all the moves because I can't even think of like half of the moves that have been made. It's been so much activity here lately. Um, a couple teams that stand out to me. Obviously, my Niners. Love what we're doing. We lost a few guys, but most of the people that they lost were secondary guys. Getting Hargrave was huge. Getting somebody that can get some pressure in the middle of that defense. Resigning Gibson, resigning our center. Those are both huge. Your Eagles, I thought, did a good job, right? Like that, you're a team that people felt like you're going to lose a lot of pieces, and you did lose a few, but you were also able to bring back a lot more talent than anybody expect you to. You're able to keep the offensive line intact, so that was huge. And you got a running back who has had some injury history, but if he can stay healthy, might be an upgrade of what you had last year. So really like what y'all did. The Falcons are another team. They're not going to contend for anything this year, but they've made some real nice moves. I like seeing some of the stuff they've been doing. The team that I'm sitting there looking at right now and going, what are y'all thinking? Is the Bears. They've made a couple of decent moves, and they got some names, but you brought in a linebacker, and then you went in and got another linebacker that's basically the same. And I really didn't think that made a lot of sense to do. Uh, you had Mike McGlinchey that you were going to bring in, and you lost out on him because you allowed the Broncos to steal him away. So, just and kind of looking at some of the moves they've made, I'm just like, you didn't upgrade your team enough, right? You made some upgrades, but not all in the right places. Justin Fields, I still don't think he's going to have the protection he needs to have this year, unless they're going to go make some additional moves. The Broncos, hey, kudos to them. They went out, they got Sean Payton, they upgraded the offensive line, they made some, improvements on the defense. They showed that they're trying to go ahead and get this thing right and win up there. So there's a bunch of teams that made moves. I'll just leave it there for right now. And if there's some certain ones you want to kind of throw out there, I'm happy to talk about them. But
All right, Coach Dante, what about you, sir?
Well, I kind of like the move that Miami did, getting Jalen Ramsey and on the other side of Zadrian Howard as well. I like that move. You got two number one corners on one side. They do got to take care. I like the way they locked up their backfield. Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert at the end of the season. They did really good running the football. They did lose Mike Gesicki, but Mike, like I say, you can make up for a tight end. You can make up for a tight end. You can easily get a tight end in the draft. You can get one in the draft. The tight end class in the draft is really loaded. They're really good in this draft, so you can make up for Mike Gesicki. But I really like what they really did. And the offensive line for the Broncos, they got some. I like the way they kind of got took care of that offensive line for Russell Wilson. I like the way they kind of took care of that offensive line. So those are the two. And also Tennessee Titans got two underrated linebackers from San Francisco as well. So Long, they got Long, and they also got Ashier. So who the Texans will negotiate. So I like what they did as well.
yeah, Alshire is really good. He's the guy I would have loved to have kept, but we couldn't afford to pay 3 linebackers. But he's going to be a really, really good player for them.
I will say too, man, we're talking about the man that did get one of my favorite quotes that I think anything happens to Tua this year, now they got a real backup. And Mike, who? Mike That's my guy. Man. I like Mike White, man. He's Mike White, man. He's a great player, man. The way Mike White plays, I do like that move as well. And Duke Riley, they got him pretty cheap. I think Minnesota got a lot better in a lot of positions, but when you're stuck with the white Dak Prescott, it doesn't help. But you can only do is make moves around him, right? So they got Byron Murphy. They did go get a tight end in Josh Oliver, who's a guy I think that's ready to break out. They signed Marcus Davenport for a 1-year deal. Nick Mullins is a solid backup. He's not a guy that you really want playing, but if Kirk Cousins is a starter, it doesn't really matter.
I can attest to the fact when Nate Williams playing.
And then Alexander Madison, I think, was a good re-signing for Minnesota. He's a guy that I wanted, Philly to go get because I've seen what he can do when he gets the opportunity. But I guess he's comfortable being there, being in the system, and everything that he knows from there. I think this is weird, but I think New Orleans had a good free agency period so far. So I'm in the minority, but I think the Derek Carr signing is going to be good for them in the long run.
Yeah.
Because you got 4 years. You're not going to be great this year, but you're starting to get the right things in place. They went out and got 2 defensive tackles, Nathan Shepard and Kalen Saunders. Both guys that I think are a little bit underrated and given the opportunity are going to be able to, do a lot for that defense as far as helping the run game, as well as attacking the quarterbacks on the other team. They re-signed Jawan Johnson, who I think is a real sneaky signing. He's a guy that I actually grabbed about halfway through the year when every tight end in the earth decided to get injured. And he played really well with Andy Dalton. So if you were a pretty solid tight end with Andy Dalton, I don't see you getting any worse with Derek Carr, especially when he's coming off playing with Darren Waller, who's been one of the better tight ends when he can stay healthy. So I think sneakily, and then bringing back Michael Thomas on a 1-year deal, and they even got Jameis Winston to come back and be the backup. So if something does happen to Derek Carr, you've got a guy in Jameis Winston who's been there a couple of years, who at least knows the system well. And then the Jamal Williams signing, I think, was another one that was good for them because it gives them a more of an every down younger back. Because I think, we're getting to that point where we just don't know about that backfield in New Orleans, right? Those guys are not staying healthy. So to bring in another guy on a reasonable contract that should be able to go out there and play some ball for you should be well. And, of course, for the Giants, I like what they did. A lot of people are upset, praised, but Daniel Jones played well with hardly no talent on offense besides Saquon Barkley in that offense last year. You went out and traded for Darren Waller, who I just got through talking about.
Yep.
Bobby Okikere. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but you know what I'm talking about.
Bobby Okereke.
Yeah, him. And then they brought in a defensive lineman in Raheem Nunez-Roches, who not great, but he will play the role well. He's a good run stuffer. He has some ability to get to the quarterback as well. Re-signing Matt Breida because we had a great year out of Saquon Barkley. But if you're the Giants, you kind of want to take a little bit of that load off. If you franchise tag it because you want him to make it through another season. Re-signing Sterling Shepard, I think, was big as well. He knows the offense. He's a veteran. He's not great, but he's good and solid. And you need solid guys. Everybody can't be, an all-star or one of the better players. Sometimes you just need solid guys. Paris Campbell, sneaky move I like as well. They did sign Darius Slayton back as well. So some of those guys that they had, they were able to bring back as well as upgraded some positions. But Waller at tight end, that's going to be huge because Daniel Jones is going to need that outlet. And when you have a guy in Darren Waller who, if he can stay healthy, is going to be very well for them. I think they're another team that did really well in the offseason. Now, there's one team that I want us to talk about, and that's the New York Jets. So I'm going to start with you, Coach Dante. What are your thoughts? And we know that Brett Favre is going to be there, so you can go ahead and throw him in, even though, it hasn't been completed yet. What are your thoughts on the New York Jets and what they've done this offseason?
I didn't think they did didn't do too much a little bit, but I do like Alan Lazard. I think he's an underrated receiver from Green Bay. That told you everything you needed to know that Aaron Rodgers was going over there when he signed. Pretty much, you fear Aaron Rodgers. Gave them his wish list. They down there. Don't be shocked if they down there get everybody that Aaron Rodgers definitely asked for. And I think you're going to have Bennett going over there as well. You're going to have him going over there. But I kind of like the Alan Lazard signing. I kind of like that signing. But I think they're going to have a really good defensive team. Now, the offense definitely got to get better once Breece Hall comes back. The offense is going to be better. Elijah Moore is going to be in trade rumors. And Denzel Mims is going to be in trade rumor too. I heard about that. They've been frustrated since last year, so you might have to add a couple of receivers outside of Corey Joseph and Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard. Corey Joseph has not panned out the way he's supposed to pan out. He's been in nothing but injury prone. But I like the Alan Lazard move. Not so much of what they haven't done so much outside of Alan Lazard.
You Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, man. To me, this is a team that was kind of on the cusp last year, right? And we all kind of felt like if they just had a competent quarterback, then they would have actually made the playoffs last year. And I would say that, if they get Aaron Rodgers, they're definitely a playoff team. But at the same time, I don't really feel that they have done enough to necessarily go out there and beat a Cincinnati or a Kansas City in the playoffs, right? So I don't know that they've done enough to actually put themselves over the hump. And the other big question mark is, yes, we all know that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, which, by the way, you actually said Brett Favre, and I started to correct you, but then I was like, it's really the same person, so it doesn't even matter.
That's why I said Brett Favre, Brett Favre, Brett Favre.
So, I'm looking at like, what are they going to give up to get this dude, right? Because Green Bay a few weeks ago was like, we're not even going to ask that much. We just want this dude gone. And now that it's all kind of, boiled down to they know all the other quarterbacks are gone. They know the Jets are desperate. Aaron Rodgers has said, I want to go there. Green Bay is kind of pulled back and go, you know what? I think we might want a little bit more than what we let on. And that's why we haven't seen this move happen yet. So before we can really say whether the Jets won or lost this all season, we need to see what else is going to happen. Because once they absorb that contract, especially if they have to take most of that money, yeah, that's going to mean they're not making no more moves.
And I also want to add in one thing. I still don't know if they're better than the Miami Dolphins or the Buffalo Bills. I still don't know if Aaron Rodgers' moves makes them better than Buffalo or the Miami Dolphins, who's got better on the defensive side of the ball and who's got weapons on the offensive side of the ball. The only question you may have, can Tua stay on the field? Can Tua stay on the field? And that's not proven. But you do got a serviceable quarterback that Cool McCain came up with White, with Mike White. He proves to be a solid quarterback as a backup. If Tua goes down, I think Mike White can come in and Mike White can come in and just pick up with kind of Tua left off with better wide receivers. So I'm not so sure that if the Jets do with the Allen Lazard move and they do get Aaron Rodgers, depends on what they're giving up. I'm not so sure that they're better than Miami or Buffalo still. I'm not so sure if that move put them over the pass.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Miami, man, it's fair to question with Tua's health, right? That's obviously a fair question. And then Mike White, you ask yourself, is he good enough? I think he's a good backup, but if you have to rely on him for a long stretch, then that might change a little bit, right? So that's going to be kind of the interesting question with that team. Also, yes, they did make some upgrades to the defense. I'm not convinced that they've done enough with that defense just yet to really contend. To be honest with you, when I look at that team, they're kind of reminding me of actually the Rams, where they've got talent at certain positions. But when you start looking at a lot of the role players, when you start looking at the depth of the roster, they're only a couple injuries away from being in really big trouble. So that's my concern when it comes to Miami. When it comes to Buffalo, I mean, let's be honest. Two things with Buffalo. Number one, you got to show me that at some point you can run the ball with somebody other than Josh Allen consistently. And number two, you got to show me that Josh Allen can actually not choke in a playoff game.
So I'll go back to the Jets here. The Jets did get better. They were a quarterback away last year. So I think you add in Aaron Rodgers, who he will be there. We don't know the compensation yet, but he's going to go there. I mean, he's pretty much put it out there now to the point where it's like, we got to trade him. We just got to see what we can get for him. Yep. So we know that the move is going to be made. It's just a question of when the move is going to be made. For me, I think they're going to probably get Randall Cobb, Ben as well, because, bring some of Aaron Rodgers guys in that he feels comfortable playing with. The Lazard move was a good move, whether or not Aaron Rodgers was coming. I think Lazard is a really good receiver, and he's a guy that was coveted. So to be able to get him, I think was big. I think you put Aaron Rodgers in with what we expect the defense to be. Let's say that they're done. They don't make any more moves and just draft. They've shown that they have some capability to draft well as well in the last couple of years. So they're going to draft guys to fill some of those other, positions. So you factor that in. with the fact that you're getting Aaron Rodgers, with the fact that you got Lazard, you got Randall Cobb that can still, play to some extent. They're gonna probably bring in another guy or two that Aaron wants to play with, because that's how it goes when you bring in Aaron. But I think they have gotten better. The question if they're better than Buffalo or Miami, you get 7 teams, in now, so they could be that 17 and be fine. And if they had not put the young Zachary in the last couple of games, if they had someone else they could have put in, I think they get in the playoffs last year. So I think Rodgers shores up that position for him. And one of the things that I've always said is you can't win this league if you don't have one of the top 10 to 15 quarterbacks. And I think Aaron is still one of those guys. So you put him, a couple of guys that he's comfortable with, the young guys, to give him an opportunity. And I tell you what, a lot of guys may be grumbling about how they got the ball and how they didn't get the ball last year. But you bring in Aaron Rodgers, who likes to sling that ball, a lot more guys are going to get a lot more opportunities this year. So some of those sensitive feelings are going to be resolved pretty quickly once there's 45, 50 throws a game happening. So, there's that also. So I think they're going to be good. If they're better than the top 2 teams above them in their division, maybe not. But you can still be third in that division and get in the playoffs. And I think that's the goal that they have.
Hey, don't forget about the other team out there in Cincinnati who understands very well what their weakness is, and they might not be very good at picking offensive linemen, but they gonna keep plugging them in until one of them works.
Well, man, I mean, you can plug in, but while you plug it in, your quarterback is getting years taken off of his career the way he is getting mutilated, abused, and gored back there on a regular basis.
So that's why they went and signed Orlando Brown Jr. That's why.
Well, I mean, there's still one move, but it's going to take more than one. They need to get about 3 more. Then we start.
Well, they tried a full refresh last year, man. That didn't work. So maybe they're trying a different approach this year.
Sometimes the approach doesn't work because of who you pick, not the approach.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on on the Jets. So free agency as a whole, man, I see a lot of guys that move around. We still got a lot of some of the big names on the board. One that I'm paying very close attention to is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I definitely would love to see him back in the Midnight and Kelly Green next year. But that doesn't happen, which there's always a possibility it doesn't happen. I think we made a move that would slightly, and I'm not attempting to compare the players, but Greedy Williams, a guy that we brought in, he may be a guy that we could do that same thing with if he can stay healthy that we did with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and have like a cornerback come in and play safety. We do have a safety on the roster. A lot of people forget about this and talking about the moves that were made. And Reed Blankenship, who did play and played well last year. It reminds me instinctual-wise, I'm not saying talent-wise, but instinctual-wise and play-wise of Weapon X, one of the better safeties that we've had as far as ferocious hitting, can make the plays that need to be made, not scared to give up his body, and it has a nose for just where the play is going. And of course, Nakobe Dean and linebacker, we'll need somebody to pair him with, but we have one guy that should be elevated into one of those spots that are now open because both of our starters, are gone for last year. And this is true for a lot of teams, not just mine, but why do I say talk about other teams? This is kind of what you want to do as an organization. So a lot of organizations are doing the same thing, or some of the organizations like the Bears and different teams have the money and they're going out and, grabbing 20 to 30 people. And of course I'm exaggerating, but a lot of new people on the team to fill holes and get rid of some people. The DJ Moore move, I mean, we talked about it before. I think it's not a bad move, but you're not getting like a stud. You're getting another solid number 2 receiver, and we've seen teams can win with about 3, 2 to upper third number 3s, a decent tight end, and a running game, and a running quarterback. So that's what's going to have to happen. Chicago, you got to do more offensive line to draft. You've got a pick at number 9, so you can do something there. You were smart to get the extra picks and do what you did. But I think Carolina is going to be hitting up Indianapolis like, yo, you want a quarterback, you better come get him. If you don't, we'll take him.
You want a quarterback, better come get him. Yep, because Indianapolis can definitely go quarterback in the draft. They did get cool favorite player, Minshew Mania the other day. So yesterday, they did get him. So other than that, I think that's one of those teams that could be searching up for a quarterback sooner or later.
Got my boy White Goodman.
Minshew is your backup saver backup. Yeah, I'll just talk real quick, man, about my division, the NFC West. I like what Seattle's doing. I don't like it because it's actually making them better, but I give them credit for actually making some really good moves over there. Really, especially focusing on the defensive side of the ball over there, because that defense last year really was not that great. So kudos to them. Gonna laugh at the Rams though, because y'all ain't seen Efton picks now, is you? Y'all begging for some picks now. Over there trading Jalen Ramsey for, what was it, a fifth they gave up? It's ridiculous. So the other team that's in that division that I'm really laughing at right now is the Arizona Cardinals. This is a absolute clinic in how not to handle free agency. Or really anything at all, period. You went and hired a guy because you legitimately thought that he was going to be able to steal all them free agents away from Philadelphia, and you ignored the fact that almost every single person on that Eagles defense told you, some low-key, some not so low-key, that dude cost him the Super Bowl, and you still made the decision to go hire him.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think that they hired him because they thought he was going to steal the Eagles free agents. I think they hired him because they thought he was actually going to be a really good coach, which is even more sad.
I don't believe that, sir. I don't believe that for a second.
There's no way that you could think that he was going to bring in a bunch of Philadelphia free agents. Because number one, you don't really have a lot of money because you paid the toddler. So there wasn't a plethora of money just sitting out there. The toddler got paid. So I think that they really thought this guy, and it was rumored that this was the guy that they were looking at as one of their finalists the whole time. And some of the other finalists were basically told you're not getting a job because I think they actually did want this guy for some reason. Hey, he could turn out to be a great coach, but as a coordinator, he was marginal at best, especially in the Super Bowl. So glad he's gone. I do feel bad for the Cardinals, but not really that bad because they used to be in the old NFC East. So I still have a little bit of that. I don't really want to see y'all succeed either. So, that's how I feel about that. So, Coach Dante, before we close up shop tonight, man, you have any last words for us?
Man, just great just being so far. Thank you, man, for having me on here with you guys, man. Like I said, looking forward to working more, man. Appreciate you for giving me this opportunity. So final words, man. Like I say, NCAA tournament, keep watching. The listeners out there, just keep watching it. Right now, we got a close game between Purdue and Fairleigh Dickinson. They're up Fairleigh Dickinson up 1. So Purdue, hey, you lose this game, I'm gonna be on your helmet the next time I'm come up here. So I'm watching Purdue. Just letting them know I'm watching them.
And Duke, you better not lose. That's all I got to tell you. You better not lose. You better win a national championship. That's what you better do. Because if not, I'm gonna have some words for you, your fan base. And that's 100. Shout out to everybody who's watched. Shout out to everybody that checks out the replay. My co-host, my boy Coach Dante, for hopping in and joining us as well. Make sure you guys are checking us out. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share it with 3 of your friends and 2 people you don't really like, because just because they don't like you don't mean they won't like us. And also, man, if you are going to be purchasing anything from Fanatics, check out your boys, right? Just go to fanatics.com. Well, actually go to playcallersportstalk.com/fanatics. Take you right to the site. Doesn't change anything about any discounts you have, any of that, but it makes sure your boys get a little bit so we can keep operating our meager attempt at sports talk for you guys to listen to and watch.
And if y'all want to, grab one of these, let us know, and we'll see about, getting something made to be able to sell. So
hats coming. Hats are coming. All right, so with that, we'll close up shop for the evening. Make sure you check us out next week. Same bat time, same bat schedule, 7:30 p.m. EST, every Friday night. Holla at your boys.